So, a lot of people have watched the Godfall Endgame gameplay video I made way back around the time Godfall came out. Since then, the game has undergone many changes as well as implemented many improvements, to the point that video is no longer relevant. Hopefully, the game doesn't change too much more with the introduction of the next DLC. Even though this breakdown is about one particular aspect of a game and not the game as a whole, this was still a bit of an undertaking. If you're watching this, chances are you've at least completed Godfall's campaign. If you have not, your head might be spinning by the end of this. First things first, the recent release of Godfall's Fire and Darkness DLC added to a few parts of the endgame, so I will do my best to point out which additions or features are specific to it. Without further ado, let's dive in. The requirements for Godfall's endgame are, as you would expect, but also a bit confusing, so strap in. Godfall's base game gives you exactly what it sounds like, the base game. You start at level 1 and play through the whole story, followed by an endgame which, as of my last Godfall video, consisted of only the Dreamstones and the Tower of Trials. The Challenger Edition, which was released on December 7th, 2021, aimed to make the game more accessible for new players. This edition was free to claim for PlayStation Plus subscribers from December 7th, 2021 to January 3rd, 2022, as well as being free on the Epic Games Store on PC from December 7th, 2021 to December 16th, 2021. To those of you who bought the Deluxe or Ascended editions at launch and haven't played in quite some time, you'll already have access to everything. As far as what the Challenger Edition provides, you'll be able to boost your character to the maximum level, level 50, from the start, and be able to access the Ascended Tower of Trials, Dreamstones, and Lightbringer endgame modes. Godfall's first DLC, Fire and Darkness, released August 10th, 2022, and brought with it a few things: the Fire Realm, dozens of new Valor Plate cosmetics, and matchmaking, which is currently limited to endgame modes. Endgame modes can get pretty hectic and there is no text chat, so you're still better off tackling those activities with people you can actually talk to and coordinate with. If you have the Challenger Edition, you can play the base game along with the Fire and Darkness DLC by upgrading your game with the Story Upgrade. Now, let's get into those endgame modes. There are 3 versions of the Tower of Trials endgame mode: regular old Tower of Trials, Ascended Tower of Trials, and Exalted Tower of Trials. As you would expect, the chance to find rare loot as well as the overall difficulty increases dramatically between each version. Regular Tower of Trials has you ascend floor after floor, fighting off any enemies that are thrown your way and hunting for loot. It goes like this: you enter the elevator to floor 1. Activating the elevator starts an elevator trial, which is a few waves of enemies. The faster you kill them all, the more keys you are awarded, as shown at the top. Once the elevator trial is done, you'll arrive at the floor trial. Now you must pick the trial reward that you want. Floors can reward either boons, which are buffs that follow you until the end of your Tower of Trials run, or loot, which will be gear. The available types of boons or loot for each floor trial is shown on the door, colored to represent rarity, so you'll pretty much always know what you'll get after each floor trial is completed. For the floor trial objectives, I've seen the following: a time trial identical to the elevator trial, simply kill everything as fast as possible; a defense trial where you'll have to protect 3 crystals and each crystal that survives grants an additional loot chest when the trial is completed; an elimination trial where you have to kill 3 strengthened enemies and killing one buffs the next one, resulting in whatever enemy you save for last being extra strong. You can only do 1 floor trial per floor, so once your floor trial is done, return to the elevator to begin ascending to the next floor, up to 10 floors. For every time trial you complete, you will get keys, which are used to unlock some of the better loot chests that appear after some floor trials. Every 5 floors, you will have to choose a Bane. Banes are debuffs, which are bad, but some are always worse than others. Some could be slightly annoying to everyone or detrimental to a specific player, depending on what loadout or build they are currently running. Despite the obvious adverse effects of Banes, they also increase your loot bonus, which is the % chance that you will find better items. As I mentioned before, this version of the Tower of Trials only goes up to floor 10, so you will accumulate 1 Bane and 4 to 5 boons. Sadly, aside from early endgame loot grinding or daily quests, normal Tower of Trials doesn't see much use. Completing the normal Tower of Trials unlocks the Ascended Tower of Trials, or ATOT as I call it. Unlike the regular tower, ATOT is more difficult, has a total of 30 floors, you have to accept a Bane every 3 floors instead of 5 like before, and it is highly recommended that you bring friends with you if you plan on getting far. A lot of the new cosmetics that the DLC added to the game, as well as your Valor Plate's shards, which were introduced in the Exalted update, will unlock only after you reach certain floors or kill certain bosses in the Ascended Tower of Trials. More on Valor Plate shards in a bit. As far as floor trial objectives go, you'll see all the ones from the regular Tower of Trials, plus a mid-boss trial where a mid-boss spawns with some additional enemies. I believe this happens every 3 floors. And a realm boss trial where you will have to fight one of the realm bosses, which happens every 15 floors. Introduced in the game's Primal update, the Primal subtype will be applied to some pieces of gear obtained from ATOT. Primal gear sees a substantial buff to the primary effect provided by that gear piece, so if you are running a certain build on your Valor Plate that calls for certain pieces of gear, finding the primal versions of your gear will rocket your power to new heights. The game's Exalted update introduced a variety of things, most notably Valor Plate shards, the Spirit Realm mode, and the Exalted Tower of Trials, which you must complete ATOT in order to unlock. About Valor Plate shards. Each Valor Plate can unlock 4 different shards through meeting very specific requirements for each, from reaching various floors in the Tower of Trials to killing certain enemies of a certain level in a certain way. Valor Plate shards can each be upgraded up to 5 times, and your ability to upgrade shards is limited by the number of shards you have unlocked across all of your Valor Plates. Unlocking all of a Valor Plate shards will provide a powerful new passive ability, and upgrading all of a Valor Plate shards to maximum level unlocks another powerful passive ability, as well as a new skin to let everyone know that you are a true god. I only have 2 shards unlocked on my Valor Plate, so I can't show much. Back on topic, the Exalted Tower of Trials, or ETOT, was introduced to give veteran players the room to flex their perfected Valor Plate builds, shards and all. ETOT will undoubtedly make casual players question their sanity and cause truly dedicated players to tighten their builds to unholy levels, never resting until they complete it. Make no mistake, this tower is where Godfall stops fucking around. I haven't made it into Exalted yet, but from what I've seen, here were the highlights. There are no boons or banes, just you versus 10 floors of Exalted. Exalted just meaning stupid dumb strong. Every elevator trial is a mob of Exalted mid-bosses, and every floor trial is 2 Exalted realm bosses at once. As far as what you can gain for all your trouble, every floor trial reward is legendary. You can earn curse gear, primal gear, and dual primary augments, and you can earn new loot exclusive to ETOT. Triple primary weapons. Dual primary augments are augments with 2 primary effects, and triple primary weapons are weapons with 3 primary effects, so you can probably guess why these would be attractive to a hardcore or even a casual player. I already explained what primal gear is, but cursed gear is another gear subtype. The cursed gear item will have negative secondary effects instead of the usual beneficial ones, forcing you to wear that gear piece while completing the specific requirements noted on its tooltip in order to lift the curse. The part that sucks is you must complete 1 task per curse that you want to lift. In the case of this greatsword, that's 3 separate pains in the ass I have to endure. Lifting curses simply flips the negative secondary effects to slightly less powerful positive effects, and the primary effect gets a small bonus after the weapon is curse-free. Unfortunately, you can't put on a cursed weapon and switch to your non-cursed weapon to make things easy. I guess the devs immediately knew that that's what everyone would try. Playing Tower of Trials in co-op comes with its own challenges. For one, boon selections are individual to each player, while banes apply to all players that are present. You cannot see the health bars of your allies, but their names will change color to signify where their health is at. Some pieces of gear offer a primary effect that heals allies, so at least one of your party should run something of a support build for the best results. If an ally goes down, you can spend one of your life stones to revive them. If they actually die and have to respawn, that costs 1 life, of which you have a maximum of 3, shared between all players in the run. So at the very least, don't be the person that uses up all the extra lives. Spirit Realm was not as intuitive as I needed it to be the first time I tried it, despite the fact that the 7th Sanctum explains the mechanics every time you enter the mode. Basically, you'll be dropped into one of the 4 elemental realms at what's called an Elder Gate, and told to gather souls. Souls are found in chests or from defeated enemies and will be one of 3 colors, red, blue, or green. You can only carry 1 soul at a time, either to an event site or a teleport gate. Teleport gates are placed around the Elder Gate and can take you from there directly to the vicinity of an event site. Events are basically battles that will spawn an Elder Soul when completed. Events take a minimum of 4 souls to start and a maximum of 8 souls to overcharge. The color of souls that you charge a gate with will apply a bane to you depending on the color. Quick examples: Red could cause a Might Bane, where enemy damage is increased. Blue could give a Spirit Bane, where switching between planes will debuff you. And green could give a Vitality Bane, where your health recovery is decreased. Overcharged gates will drop more loot, but the event will be more difficult and the spirit boss will be even tougher. Luckily, there are also boon springs around where you can deposit souls to gain a boon for the corresponding color, so always do those when you see them. Elder souls can be deposited in the Elder Gate at the start, and once the 3 have been dropped in, you can access the spirit boss, which will be one of the 4 realm bosses, only with a slight twist. Spirit realms sound simple enough until I tell you that exploring and fighting happens on both the physical and the spirit planes. Some enemies will be in the physical plane and some will be in the spirit plane, and you can swap between them by toggling your spirit vision.
You have to go into spirit mode. I'm not sure what the key will be.
Oh, I see. Okay, it switches between... Gotcha. You can be damaged by enemies from either plane at any time, but you can only damage enemies from the plane you are currently in, which can make things very difficult. The spirit boss may just be one of the realm bosses you've probably fought before, but they will have new moves, be able to switch between both planes at any time, and can summon enemies in both planes, adding to the overall chaos of the boss battle. Once you finally defeat the spirit boss, you can either bow out with whatever loot you've gained thus far, which can include dual primary augments, or run the loop again and get even greater rewards, up to 3 times. Spirit Realms are the only activity in Godfall thus far that can support a maximum of 6 players, making it the biggest cooperative activity. Of course, if you can't readily find 5 other people to join you, Spirit Realms can be completed solo, they'll just be significantly harder. Dreamstones have been in endgame mode since Godfall's official launch, but they received a generous overhaul in the Primal update. A Dreamstone can be standard or volatile and ultimately end with a fight against a realm boss, or a gauntlet of mid-bosses specific to one of the 4 elemental realms, the former being much easier if you're running solo. To start, pick a Dreamstone and pay the cost. You can take on the boss of the Dreamstone at any time, but you won't get much for doing so. Alongside the boss mission will be 2 side missions. Picking and completing one will add to the reward pool of the Dreamstone boss, and then randomize the next 2 available side missions. Every side mission completed will grant Coins of Valor, which are used to enter the Tower of Trials. A certain amount of something called Stability, and a certain amount of something called Lucidity. Stability is shown in the upper left of the Dreamstone lobby screen, and each side mission completed will both increase it by a varying amount depending on how many bonus objectives you completed in the side mission, and drain it by a flat amount, noted on the lower left of the Dreamstone lobby screen. If stability hits 0, you fail the Dreamstone. Lucidity is a currency which allows you to perform Dreamstone shaping, which lets you add additional rewards to the Dreamstone boss loot pool, which comes in handy if you need specific materials or are looking for a specific gear type. For every 4 side missions completed, you will take on a Bane, which will apply when you confront the Dreamstone boss. Completing your highest level standard Dreamstone will unlock another standard Dreamstone of a higher level. Of course, the higher the Dreamstone level, the better chance for great loot. Standard Dreamstones also don't go away when used, so you can do them as much as you want. Volatile Dreamstones are similar to the standard Dreamstones, however, they cost nothing to enter and they include random modifiers that will apply for that entire Dreamstone, side missions and all. Volatile Dreamstones will disappear after use, but will award you with more Volatile Dreamstones once completed. Failing the boss encounter in a Volatile Dreamstone will destroy that Dreamstone. Last but not least, we have the Lightbringer mode, which was introduced with the Fire and Darkness DLC. Lightbringer is a realm-wide activity, so you have to pick a realm to begin. Picking the right realm is important for 2 reasons. 1, you'll be exploring on a ticking clock, so a realm with flat terrain would be best. 2, you'll be fighting on a ticking clock, so choosing a realm with the least annoying enemies and bosses is essential. Once you're in, you'll notice the entire realm is dark AF. The 7th Sanctum will explain that she is providing light in order to push back the Heart of Darkness, and this power struggle is shown in the gauge at the top of your screen. The light side will continuously decrease, but you can push back the darkness in a few different ways. The realm will be sprinkled with light beacons, which you can locate easily via spirit vision. Hit them 4 times to activate them and heal damage you take while running through the darkness. Some light beacons will point toward a nearby cache of light when activated. Caches of light are an optional objective that provides light experience to increase your light level, shown in the upper left corner of the screen. To access a cache, defeat the enemies linked to it. The only bad thing about that is you'll most likely be deep in the darkness while fighting these enemies. Defeated enemies can drop tiny sparks of light to help heal you from dark damage, but it isn't much, so try to avoid taking damage unnecessarily. The main objective of Lightbringer is to seal dark tears. Once you reach a dark tear, it will activate a ring of light, which you can stand in to avoid dark damage while you fight whatever enemies spawn. The different dark tear objectives boil down to defeat the enemies. This seems rather mundane, so the objective variety might improve in a later update, just like the Tower and Dreamstones did previously. After sealing a Dark Tear, a Light of the Sanctum will spawn, tasking you with escorting it back to the Amplifier at the start. Enemies will spawn to halt your advance, and if they set foot in the area around the Light of the Sanctum, it will stop your progress. Once you escort the Light of the Sanctum back to the Amplifier and bank it, you can start the Amplifier and finish with common rewards, or go get 2 more Lights of the Sanctum in order to end with much greater rewards. The amount of Lights of the Sanctum you deposit determines how lengthy and difficult the waves of enemies will be in the final battle. Each time you deposit a Light of the Sanctum and every time you complete the caches of light objectives, your light level will raise. Your light level determines the quality of loot you'll gain when you complete the run. If your light level falls between 1 and 9, your rewards are meh. If your light level falls between 10 and 19, your rewards will be better. And if your light level falls above 20, you'll have the best chance at the best rewards. Now, what I mean by falls above 20 is that when you activate the Amplifier the final time after defending it against the waves of enemies, it will double your total light experience. As long as you got your light level to 10 and above prior to initiating the final battle, you will finish with a light level above 20, which will get you the best rewards possible. I unknowingly chose to suffer a whole lot when attempting to get footage of this mode. I went in solo, sealed 3 tears while also grabbing light caches, and on the final wave of the final confrontation, I was tossed around like a ragdoll, unable to do enough damage fast enough to keep the mid-bosses off of the Amplifier. If the darkness completely overtakes the gauge at the top of your screen, your light levels will begin to drain. So, out of options, I did what I could to manage to kill the remaining bosses, only to run out of time at the very last possible second and fail the run as a whole. Your takeaway from that little story should be, bring at least one other person with you to complete a full Lightbringer run. My takeaway from it all is, become much stronger and try again. Lightbringer is the best way to get cursed gear items, and scrapping any cursed items can result in lesser, regular, and greater curses, which you can apply to a Lightbringer run for better rewards. Curses saddle you with additional banes while also increasing the quantity and rarity of gear you are rewarded after the Lightbringer run. How much you are willing to suffer for that sweet loot is entirely up to you. As of right now, those were all of Godfall's current endgame modes explained. If you're still with us, congratulations. That was a lot to process. I'm sure they'll add more modes or refine the current ones, but we'll cover that when we get to it. Did I miss something? Was I unclear about anything? Let me know in the comments below. Either way, drop a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you want to see more. This has been Cygnus Jason, and I need a nap.